I would like to thank Aguda once again for hosting this phenomenal event. Learning, taking off of a working schedule to come to learn, share after share, Kanai Nara. Like Rabbi Gottesman said, I'm just going to give a quick outline, the basics of halacha, just bring out the points that are negeya, and that hopefully that will even help for the questions that are supposed to be following, because a lot of these yesodis are going to repeat itself again and again. Okay, so let's just start off. We know that there are different types of shomrim and different levels of chiyuvim. Asher mechinam is chayiv am shia, asher mesach is chayiv an gneva v'aveda, and the shol is chayiv an ointzin as well. An oinus means that even it's something that he could not prevent. It's an oinus gomer totally out of his control. Still, a shol is chayiv for that. It's a gzeres hakosev. And why? The Gemara says, Kol ano shaloi, because he totally benefits from the item. He's getting everything. The mashal's getting nothing from it. Therefore, the shol is chayiv, even on einzin. Highest level of chiyuvim. Now, all chiyuvei shomrim can be waived. You can make up with the shomrim at the beginning, at the get-go. I am not taking achrayis. I'm a shomrim chinim, yes, but I'm going to be pata on pshia. Even at gross negligence, I want to be pata on pshia, and barring, I guess, a Maysa b'yadayim, a mazik, you'd be pata. Same thing with the shomrim masacha and a shoyl as well. They could all be masna that to be pata on their chiyuvim. It's kedai to mention that you just have to know that that really doesn't really fully pata you from a practical point of view. My father HaRav used to say that it's good to be right, and it's better to be smart. And he used to give a mashal. This was his mashal he used to give. So the person's crossing the street, and he has the right of way, and he sees a car racing down oblivious to the stop sign, and the guy crosses the street because he has the right of way, and he gets run over. That's it. Swipes over. So my father's going to say, the person was right. He had the right of way, but it wasn't smart what he did. So it's better to be smart than right. So I'll tell you, 25 years ago, literally 25 years ago, I came to Eretz Yisrael for Shemesh. I think it was the first time we went to, the Iyunim went for Shemesh in Eretz Yisrael. And my shvaga decided he's going to send, he owes money for tefillin in Eretz Yisrael to a soifa. He's going to send with me $1,400 to bring and drop off by this soifa. So I told him, I said, Hertzi, I'm going to be at a hotel. I'm not going to be able to carry the money with me. It's going to be in the suitcase. I can't really be showing it constantly. I know it's going to be stolen. You still want me to take this money? So he tells me, yes, I want you to take the money. Don't worry, nothing's going to happen. So I tell him, I'm being masne, then I'm a shemechinim, but I'm not even chayif pshia. I'm potting ganzen, I'm telling you it's going to be lost. Fine. I go to Eretz Yisrael. Sure enough, by the second day, the envelope was already gone. Already lost. Now, I didn't know how much money was in the envelope, and I knew I had to, but I would like to pay the soifa. So I called up my wife to find out, can you find out from my shraga how much was in the envelope, and I'll be able to pay the soifa. I'll lay it out for him. My wife was a little bent out of shape. He lost a lot of money. Fine, but she understood. Yeah, I warned him. Then all of a sudden, alarm bells go off. My shrug was calling me. My sister-in-law's calling me. My wife's calling me. What happened to the money? Why is the money lost? I said, remember we made up that it's going to be stolen, remember? No, that's it. He couldn't. I said, just tell me how much what it was. He told me it was $1,400. Fine. Does it bring guilt doubles? Yeah, then it was worth something. Yeah, it was literally 25 years ago. It was at the end of 98, the beginning of 99, the winter, the same thing, 25 years ago. So I realized this is not an eitzah, so I tell you what I did. I don't know if it was a smart thing, but I think, it was a better for the family situation. I called him back an hour later, and I said, Nasano Baruch Hashem, I found the envelope. It was tucked in a different part of the suitcase. Baruch Hashem, I found the envelope. I didn't have the money with me. I borrowed it from a friend, paid the soifa, and Ad Hayoim, he doesn't know that he owes me this money.
Till he listens to the share.
Weeps in his auto. So you're making $1,400 off the strip.
I think we can finish here now. Fantastic.
All right. So So it's good to be right. It's better to be smart. I don't know if I was smart by taking this envelope with me, but okay. But you could be masna to pater your chiyuvim. Besides having chiyuvim, if something happens, there's also chiyuv shmira. That is that you actually are obligated to watch the item. You can't say, okay, who cares? I'll be negligent, and if something happens, I'll pay. That's not an excuse. No, you actually are responsible. You're a watchman to watch the item. Not only a shoy mechinam, and certainly a shoy mesacha, but the chiddush is even a shoyel is mavu in the Gemara that a shoyel has a chiv to watch. Even though a shoyel is chayiv, even a ninth and he can't even watch for that. But whatever he can watch for, he is mechuv to watch. And it's mavu in Reish Tzadi Aleph that actually his chiv shmira to watch is even greater than a shoy mesachas. If a shoyel gives it to a shoy mesacha to watch, it's as if he's shirking his responsibility. He's downgrading the level of shmira. But that's another chiyuv that a shayim has. Not only is he responsible, but not only is he liable, but he's also responsible to watch.
You can't be makabel not to be a shayim, just to chesed.
I did that. It didn't work. No, but you could. You can be makabel that you're in potter. You're not taking on any chiyuvim. You could. You're allowed to be masna and you be potter. Because you still have to watch. If you want to make a hasna that you're not even going to watch it, then you could do that too. You could do that. Whatever you make up, you could do. It's.
What is the gather of it? What is the gather of shmira with amis, chaymis, and money? What is it?
Well, we find that there could be items that you have a chiv to watch and you be potter on. It's debatable, but those things that are nismai from shmira, according to some poskim, you still might have to watch it. You should be potter if something happens to it.
Rather.
I have to watch it like for the big Israel, not a simple shmir. It has to be a shmir.
It has to be the regular shmira, just you'd be potter if something happens.
What is the chiyuv of shmira?
What?
Okay, go back.
What is it? It's a saying. It's a sisa yoshra.
It's a pasuk in the Torah about hadinei shoimrim. It's one of the mitzvahs called dinei shoimrim, and Chazal understand what the chiyuvim are, and that's part of your chiyuvim. All right, let's go on, Rabbi, because I still have a lot more to share with the Olam. So this is groundwork that everyone is liable and everyone is responsible to watch. There is a heter, a patur we'll call it. There's a patur called Meisa Machus Malacha, which the Olam is familiar with. The Gemara says it's a svara. The Gemara says, Lav lu'ukma bekilsa she'ilta. It's a svara, that's not even a pasuk, it's learned out of a svara. Now Rabbi say, what in the world is this svara? Because you gave it to me not to be held in a stall, you held it, I should use. Why is there a patur called Meisa Machus Malacha? Something that's a total oinus, nothing to do with my borrowing and my usage. There, you're going to tell me I'm chayiv, because the show is chayiv on 19, even on 9 is gomer. And when it's something which is machmas malacha, which I'm actually using, and it came because of me, it came about because of me, here I'm going to be potter, because mesa machmas malacha, how you talking? That's a Rishonim's kasha. The Olam saw the Rishonim? Okay, good. So the Ramban answers, the Ramban is mechadish, that this is called a pshia demashel, something that the item suffers a damage through malacha. The animal couldn't survive the malacha that it was borrowed for, that it was intended for. So then it's like a pshia demashel. The mashel is also held responsible.
Faster just to hear it several times.
Good, excellent. And they heard the Rashba too?
Yes.
Great. So according to the Ramban, I want to just share with the Olam just to understand it or drop better. It's as if it's another darga. We have Pshia, we have Gneva Vaveda, we have Oinis, and now we have the next darga, and the next darga is when it's an Oinis where the Mashal participated in. The Mashal was also Pshia in, just like the Ramban Shita is that Adam Amazik is Chayiv, even Adam Mud La'olam. But the Ramban's Shita is, and that's even an Einis Gama, we don't pass like the Ramban over there, but the Ramban holds if it came Machmas a Pshi of the Nizik, then you can be Potter. That's already like another dagger above that, and for that the Torah was not Machayiv. That's a Svara. Okay, fine. there's a debatable point. Meir already brings it down. The Chaim bring it down. If you could waive this, could I make up that I'm going to be chayiv meis machmas malacha? I'm borrowing it. I'm chayiv for einzin. I'm going to be chayiv even for meis machmas malacha without a kinyan. Even without a kinyan, does it work because I made that up? And that's a big tumult amongst the Achronim. But I'm just showing you it's contractual. You could possibly, even with a diba ba'alma, you could take it to the next step. All right. There's a machlokes rishonim. How are we magdir meisa machmas malacha? What's considered machmas malacha? The Yad Ramah holds that if you take an item, the Olam Suat, just going through it, the Yad Ramah says if it gets stolen on the ala derech, that's called meisa machmas malacha. The Rosh argues, and the Rosh says that that's not meisa machmas malacha because it could get stolen from your backyard, from your driveway as well. And even though it's more shchiach to be stolen on the way, still the Rosh said since it could be stolen at home as well, it's possible, it happens, memela, that's not machmas the malacha, and therefore you will be chayiv. So it's a machlokes had to be magdir meisa machmas malacha. How weit to take this? The Ramah brings down the Shitas HaRosh, the Mechaber brings down the Shitas Yad Ramah. So according to Yad Ramah, you're more pato. According to Mechaber, you're more pato. According to Ramah, it seems that you would be chayiv because he brings down the Rosh. I want to share with the Olam a Klau Gadol and Choshen Mishpat, and that is, the Achronim say that whenever the Ramah brings down a Yesh Oimrim, whenever he brings down the Yesh Oimrim, and he doesn't say V'chein Ikar, V'chein Noyagin, something like that, to give it a stempel that it's right, that's how we fearzach. All the Ramah means to do is that we have to account for the other Shita as well. The Ramah is not being machriya like the Rosh, but all he's doing is he's telling you have to handle the Rosh as well, and it's a sveika dedina. So even according to the Ramah, you still have the Yad Ramah's Tur to deal with. The Ramah didn't mean to paskin like the Rosh. He only meant they have to take it into account. Whoever's mukzik is going to win. And as I paskin to Majdam, Perak Mata'ar, many Achronim, that it's a sveika dedina, and you could be pata, and you could tie in a kimli like the Shitas Yad Ramah, the Bechai Gavna, you're going to be pata. The Shak brings down a third Shita. It's his own Shita. He says it's the Ramban's Shita, and the Achronim take issue with the Shach that the Ramban can fit in the Rosh, and the Ramban can fit in the Yad Ramah as well. But the way the Shach understands the Ramban is that you're only going to be potter when it's a pshias the mashal. If the mashal was pesheya in giving the item for the she'ela, getting stolen on the road, the mashal wasn't a pesheya. The animal wasn't meant to fend off the bandits. And memela, the mashal wasn't pesheya, and memela, you don't have the patur of mesa machmas malacha. It's the way the Shach understood the Ramban. So that's yet a third shita. So the Shach actually thinks that that's prat in the Ramban. That's what his prat in the Ramban is, and he actually applies it. And he plugs it into the Rosh Shita too. He also said that's what Rosh means as well. And the Achronim argue with the Shach that's not what the Rosh means. The Mashmois of the Rosh is not like that. But nevertheless, this is another sheet, a third sheet to contend with, is that if it's a Pshiyat Mashal. The Achronim bring down one more on this point, is a Chumas Adeshin. Someone borrowed a gun to fight off in a Muhammad, and unfortunately, he was captured, the gun was taken away, and over there, the Chumas Adeshin says that that's a patur of Mesa Machmas Malacha. And the Iyunim saw that, good. And the Shach argues, and the Shach says there's no patur of Mesa Machmas Malacha here because it's not the problem in the gun. It's the problem in the person, the soldier holding the gun. The person who borrowed it didn't fend off the robbers. The gun wasn't supposed to fend off the robbers or the enemy. It was the shoyel that was supposed to. So the shoyel messed up, so it's not a pshia damashal, and in B'chai Gavna, the Shach says you don't have the patur of Mesa Machmavaka. So he argues with the Chumas Adeshin. It's noted that the Sma, the Lavush, many Achronim quote the Chumas Adeshin even though they go with the Rosh. So you see again, not like the Shak's Havana. The Shak says that if you hold like the Ramban, B'chai Gavna, you would not have the Patur, and he also Rosh says like that, but other Paiskim seem not like that. That's another Shaila. Okay, I want to go to one more Patur, and then we'll finish with this, we'll start the cases, and that is Balav Imai. There's a Patur, Xeris HaKazav called Balav Imai. Balav Imai means that when the Mashil comes along with the item, he's working for the shoyel at the time of the borrowing. Everything is dependent on the time of the she'ela, the time of the askalas she'ela, regardless if he was still working for the shoyel at the time of the shviru Mesa, at the time the inus happened. As long as it's the time of the she'ela it happens, there's a patur abal of imoy. He could be employed somewhere else on some other job. It's irrelevant. You have the patur abal of imoy. And the Gemara even says that this is an eitzah to get out of chiyuvim, is by saying hashkeni mayim. Something nominal, just giving a cup of water at the time of the sheila will make a patur abal of imoy. And the Gemara says if the mashal is smart, he'll tell the shoyl, first borrow the item, and then I'll give you the cup of water. So then you don't have the patur abal of imoy at the time of the sheila. So I mentioned last week in the shir, in the prep shir, is that this Torah Balavima is quite broad, broader than we think. Not only if you have employees, which do sometimes, colleagues, employees for sure, sometimes borrow from one another, but it's a Torah, any communal worker who's on call at the time, the Gemara says, if you have a Shasa Le'ir, whatever it is, the Taba Cha'umin, that also has a Torah Balavima. And Mamela, I mentioned last week that every Hatzalah member, if he's on call at the time of the she'ela, if he lends something and he's on call at that time that he lent it, you could have the patur of balavimai because maybe because he is on call at the time that he's lending it. And even if he wasn't called at the time, but since he's can be called, the Gemara's Mavur, that Svara, as long as you're working for the city, you have a patur of balavimai. When we mentioned this, it was a story that I made up. I said it over in the shir, went viral. Literally, I had posters hanging up in Lakewood against the Bezdin. How do you crazy paskin this shaila patur bala v'imay b'chiyai gavna, which is fine. It's PR is good. Even bad PR is good, but it was good. We had PR from it, and then subsequently we went to Eretz Yisrael. We asked from Nitzan Krelitz Zatzal, we asked from Rav Yoshev Zatzal, and they both said that you have the patur of balavima. Yes, so you will have the patur of balavima b'chai gavna. So now it's much broader than we think. Now, I just want to end off with an Chaim's kasha, which the Olam probably saw, right? Good. But it's a Nagea Halacha L'Maysa. Chaim has a kasha. How could it be that there's a Torah balavima? HaKadosh Baruch Hu for sure is going to keep the Torah. And Mamela lost it lavai, the Yom Adin HaGadol. How could HaKadosh Baruch Hu have any tainus on any yid? There's a Torah balavima. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mefarnes us every second of our day. He gives us life and He provides for us. He clothes us. He feeds us. He does everything for us. So then we should always have a patur of balavimai, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us. And the Chaim HaKadosh even says, Halacha L'Maysa, he says that's pshat, why there's no shmira for hegdish. If you're shema on hegdish yipata, he says the reason is because you have the patur of balavimai. Because the bailam of hegdish, which is the Rebbeinu Shalom, is with you. So is with the shoyel, is with the shema. So memela, you have the patur of balavimai. But this is the Orchaim, the kasha, and Grad in the Svarim say that actually it's a pasuk. The pasuk says in Bamidbar, "Lehibit oven b'Yakov." HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't focus on the averes of Klal Yisrael. V'lo'ira amo b'Yisrael. Why? Ki Hashem elokavimoi. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with Klal Yisrael. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with Klal Yisrael, so you can't look at their averes because there's a patur of balavimoi. But this is the kasha that the Chaim HaKadosh has, and therefore he says it's either a gzeres HaKosev, it's like you're masne, so you could be masne to be chayev even for balavimoi, or he says that even though there's a patur of balavimoi, there's still a chayev bedinei shemayim. And that's a big chiddush la'alacha, Rabbi say, that even though you have a patur of balavimoi, you're still going to be chayev bedinei shemayim. Ba'al Lima is not an absolute patur. There's still a chi b'din Shemayim. So it means you're going to have to watch a b'din Shemayim, and you're going to be chai b'din Shemayim if something happens to it. And it's a big chiddush, and the Tal Torah asks on the Chaim HaKadosh from the Gemara. The Gemara says, you eitzah to get out of Shmira is by saying Ashkeni Mayim. So, fact the Tal Torah, how's that an eitzah? You're still chai b'dinei Shemayim. You're still going to be chai. What's the Gemara giving you an eitzah that Hashkeni Mayim that only patters you in Dinei Adam, but you can still be chai b'dinei Shemayim. So, what's the point? What's the eitzah? You're still chai. Chaim Ginsburg once asked Rav Shachzetzal a shayla, Halacha L'Maysa, and he wanted to know in a certain case if it was Grummer or Gami, is it chi b'dinei Adam or chi b'dinei Shemayim? And Rav Shachzetzal looked at him and said, what are you talking about? What's a chilik? He wants to know, is he chai b'dinei Shemayim? He said, what's a chilik? You're a yid. Avadi you're going to have to pay anyway. You're chai b'dinei Shemayim. What's a chilik? You anyway chai. So, same thing here, Frekta Tal Torah. What's the Gemara saying? Ashkeni Mayim is a patur. If you anyway chai, b'dinei Shemayim. Al-Kochel, you see, not like Torah Chaim HaKadosh. And the Tal Torah suggested an eitzah that even Torah Chaim HaKadosh would be moida, that if an oinus happens, you're not chai b'dinei Shemayim. He only means when you're pesheya, and you have the P'tur Balavima, you still chai b'dinei Shemayim. But if there's an oinus, even the Chaim HaKadosh with Meir, you're part of b'dinei Shemayim. Because a Maisa, an oinus is beyond your capability. You can't watch for it. So there won't be chai b'dinei Shemayim b'chei gavna. Shtikum mashmois like that in the Chaim HaKadosh as well. He says his focus is if you're pesheya, you have a chai b'dinei Shemayim. There are other achrayim, because Yeshua, there are other achrayim, because Yeruchim, other achrayim who argue and say you do not have a chai b'dinei Shemayim by Balavimai. And that just basically is the end of the summary. This idea that you could be potter and still have a chi b'dinei Shemayim is not just by Balavimai. It's by all Peturei Shoimrim. The Rebino suggests that even when you potter on other items in Shoimrim, let's say Karka, Avodim, Shtaris, you still have a chi b'dinei Shemayim. All Peturei Shoimrim is a machloikes achroinim if you still chai b'dinei Shemayim. All right. Shkoyek for listening.
Okay, Shkoyach and Kahan, just for edification purposes, the Chaim HaKadosh is brought down. It's in the book. In the back, where we have a collection of Iyunim and Hilchais Balavimai, which we'll talk about more tomorrow. And there is several pages. As Dayan pointed out, the Chaim has spawned a huge Torah literature. There are several pages with many terutzim to the Chaim HaKadosh Kasha and the Kol HaKos of L'chaim, and many, many others. And we thank him for that introduction and for being Meir Chaim's Kasha. Okay, so we're going to ask the questions now. We're going to direct the questions to each one of the Dayanim sequentially. As I said, only can ask questions, but we're going to have to move this along. So when we see that it's time to move along, be Meichelos. The first question is very complex. It has 6 parts to it. So you'll have to hold cup here. Everybody ready? Okay, it's directed to Rabbi Marburger. If I lend a pen, everybody know what a pen is? Yes? If I lend a pen to one of the Iyunim and it is destroyed ba'onis, what is the halacha? HaRav Marburger. Show them what a pen is. This is a pen.
Here's the 6 parts.
Oh, the other 5 parts we'll get to, Rich, tomorrow.
Okay, the answer to that question, rather obviously I may add, is that it depends whether you lent the pen to Rabbi Kahan or whether you lent it to myself. Okay? Do we need more than that?
I don't, but I think they do, so go ahead.
As we all know by now, a shoyol is chayav einstein. You borrow something, you're using it, you're responsible for whatever happens unless you meet one of the exclusions that Rav Khan mentioned. However, over here it's a bit different. Because you're borrowing a pen for what? To write something down. What is the value of using the pen to jot down a couple of lines? Not very much. The Gemara has a shayla, Machlokes Rishonim how to learn it, but if a shayla borrows something to use it for less than a shava pruta, The Gemara is unsure either whether you're a shoyer or whether it's ba'al of imay. But halacha l'maysa, because there's no clear psak, if you borrow something to use it for, and the value is less than a pruta, you're not a shoyol, and you're not responsible for any oinus. Now, the reason why I say there'll be a difference between who you're lending it to, because typically the person borrows a pen, there's not much value, and he'd be pater. On the other hand, if you're lending the pen to Rav Kahan, and he's perhaps signing his name, an autograph, this has tremendous value. You're using the pen for something that has worth much more than a pruta, and therefore, arguably, he's a shayl and he'd be responsible. Now, it's not a very nice psak to say when Rav Kahan is sitting next to me. So I gave it a little bit of more thought, and on second thought, this halacha may not be correct. And that is, we all know by now, I believe it's in the booklet, the Tshuvas Haran, that if a person borrows a sefer to learn, he's a shoyel. Nevertheless, the Ran paskins, if an oinus happens, he's not responsible to pay. And he explains that it is a mitzvah to lend out svarim. Because the owner is doing a mitzvah when he's lending out the sefer, there's a proof to Rav Yosef, he's getting paid, there's value there. The Ktsois says mitzvahs lav l'hanis nitnu, therefore it's not like a shoyel. And therefore, lending an item for a dvar mitzvah, according to the Ran, a person does not become a shoyel. Again, there's some machlokes, but this is the Shitas Haran. Now, based on that, if a regular person borrows a pen, assuming we don't have a problem with the Shava Pruta, he'd be in a shoyel. On the other hand, if you're lending the pen to Rav Kahan, he's clearly going to use it to write a psak din, to write some Torah, a dvar mitzvah. Therefore, based on the Tshuvas Haran, l'chayra, he would not be a shoyel, he would not be chayav ha'insin. Now, in truth, there's another cheshbon. This is a bit of a chiddush. I'm not saying this halacha l'maysa, but I'll put it out there. We all know a person is makadesh in Isha. The way you're makadesh in Isha is you give the woman a pruta. Today we use a ring or shava pruta, and you're makadesh the Isha. The Gemara in Kedushin on Daf Zayin writes that if an Isha gives an Eldom Choshev a present, then he can be makadesh the Isha by accepting the present. Although the Kedushin is normally the husband gives the wife the pruta to be mekudeshes, but in Eldom Choshev, who is Sanya Matanis Yechia, for him to accept a present, it's a chashivas. They accepted your present. And therefore, if an Isha gives an Ish, an Adam B'chashuv, a present and he accepts it, she can be Mikudeshes with the Hana that he accepted that present. Now, if we apply that to Hilchos Sheila, l'chara, what would come out is an incredible chiddush. That if you lend an item to an Adam Chashuv, then him accepting it and using your pen is a chashivas. This pen you're going to walk around and say, do you know who used this pen? And in Kahan, if that is considered a hana of a pruta, arguably, he would not be a shoyol, rather he would be a soicher and pater b'insin. Now again, it's chiddush lahalacha. If no one brings down such a chiluk, perhaps saying the doesn't apply to a shoyol. But I'll call upon him. If you lend a pen to a random dude, this certainly wouldn't apply. But if you lend it to an adam chashuv, perhaps he's only a din seicher, and therefore we potentially have another tour for Rav Kahan. Now, the truth is, this is the answer that I thought about earlier. But over the last few days, I've realized this psak is a complete mistake, and it's totally irrelevant to halacha. And the reason for that is, the question was posed by Rebbe Gottesman, if I lend someone a dayan a pen and noinus happens, am I responsible? I think everyone who's seen what is going on today realizes the incredible amount of work that Rebbe Gottesman and the entire team has put into putting together this YYK Kala. And I can tell you, he's been working literally 24/6 for weeks or for months, making sure the ruchnius, the gashmius, everything is done outside Har Yoser Toiv. And therefore, I'm sorry to inform you, it's ba'al of imay.
What about Amchasha? What about Amchasha?
It's balavimai. And therefore, the shoyol would not be responsible in Einstein, even if the borrower would be Pesheya. And whether the borrower is Rabbi Kahan or myself, or I think anyone in the room, if Rabbi Geidesman is the shoyol,
It's a mashal.
what? Is the mashil, they would not be chayav in Einstein or even in Pshia. So perhaps this is an example of, like many times when people are oisik b'tzarchi tzibur be'amuna, kadosh baruch hu yishalem scharam, but
Very nice, but my job is over tomorrow.
In this world, the only result is you're out of pen.
No, but seriously, does it apply to a temporary? I'm a temp. Does it apply to a temp?
Sure. It applies to a volunteer. If you would ask someone to give them a glass of water at the time of the she'ela, that is enough to have a bowl of vino. It does not have to be an employee. It doesn't have to be a formal relationship. It doesn't even have to be paid. It still is enough for a bowl of vino.
Okay. Any questions, Rabbi Sai?
Right.
No, nothing goes unchecked.
It wasn't from a Valdim, it was from Rabbi Geidesman.
I just want to point out, first thing,
It's my pen.
when it comes to a Pachas Mishava Prute, and he says that the autograph from Rabbi Kahan is worth more than Shavruta, but paying for a pen to do an autograph doesn't cost more than Shavruta. So even though the result will be more than Shavruta, you'll pay the same amount for the pen. So I don't know that will make it worth more than Shavruta. The next point I would like to make is, we said that Rabbi Geidesman is Baal of Imoy. I want to question whether Rabbi Geidesman is working on behalf of all of us or not. That means the Gemara is talking about, he said Ishkeini Mayim, it was a request, and he was meshabed himself by giving him water. He answered the request, so that's a shibud. If someone volunteers on his own and he's walking around doing things for people a whole day, but he has no shibud to do so, is he still have the ptur of Baal of Imoy?
What's a shibud?
That's my question.
What's
Is
a
Baal, what?
What constitutes a
Like
shibud? What constitutes a shibud?
So I'm questioning whether it's still Baal of Imoy. Rabbi Kahan says the machloikis, we're going to soon hear from him what the machloikis is. But I believe one thing's for sure, that it just the fact that you're doing work for somebody doesn't make it Baal of Imoy. It has to be, and we'll soon hear from him, and then I'll respond.
Okay, everybody say the next question.
Hatzalah, there is a shibud in place. They were meshabed. The chiddush of Hatzalah was that the members weren't meshabed directly to the recipient of their aid. They were meshabed themselves to their captains, to their organization. So there was a chiddush that you could apply Baal of Imoy to the next level, like it passes through. And that the Gedolim said, yes, it's still considered Baal of Imoy. What Rabbi Roth is pointing out is there was never a shibud in place, unless Rabbi Geidesman was meshabed himself to the Aguda, in which case then we could talk about passing through. But if there's no shibud, it's a machlokes achronim. I wasn't going to go into it, but it's machlokes achronim how to understand Baal of Imoy, and the lumdis, it's like 4 daggers in achronim. But one says, like Rabbi Roth, that it has to come upon a request to create a shibud. If a person does something voluntarily on his own, that will not be considered Baal of Imoy. It's a machlokes, there's a pronos, typelet, there's a lot of rate on it, but it's a machlokes achronim.
Okay, Rabbi Sai. The next question.
Shibud. Shibud.
Maybe it was it.
When the owner came to check the soil was loaded correctly, he was asked.
If he was meshabed,
That's what he said.
if he was meshabed himself to, let's say, Aguda, and a Chanami, then we could have it as a pass-through. If it wasn't, we was just helping people out, so then that's what Rabbi Roth was pointing out then. No, the Shibud Ashkeni Maim is, I asked you for something, so now you're acting upon my request. So then you're acting on my request. That is not, a shiva doesn't have to be like mamish an employee who was hired. It just means that there is a relationship in effect. Memelo, there's a p'tur balavima. Where it was to point out there was no relationship. It was all volunteer. There was never a shiva. There was never a commitment.
Aga, by the way, we hope to re-ask this question to Hagayin Rav Dov Landau, which we were not able to on Sunday night. So who knows? By tomorrow we may have a different psak. We'll let you know. The shibud question is, I'd like to think I'm all like the rest of you, Meshubah to Klal Yisrael, and the shliach for that is a good Yisrael, so we can think about what that exactly are and what that shibud entails. Okay, the next question is legitimately a little bit more complicated, so seriously, try to follow. A bachar borrowed a friend's car to drive out of town for a date. Fine. While it was parked, I don't think the destination is important. While it was parked, a tree limb fell on it and caused damage. Subsequently, Ruvain is the shayel, correct? Ruvain discovered that the car had no registration. Ruvain Tainus, that had he known the car had no registration, he would never have borrowed it. And therefore, retroactively, Lema Freya, he should not be liable as a shayel. The Mashal said, this is not grounds to undo the she'elah, since it didn't make a difference that it wasn't registered, because that was not negeya to the damage. And the damage would have happened, malachatri hasam or hacha, and would have happened regardless. Who is right? Let's to make it simple, Rabbi Sab, we're going to use Ruvain from now on. Ruvain and Shimon. Shimon is our mashal, Ruvain is our shayel. Everybody get it?
You just switched it around. Okay. Okay, I'll do this. I'll explain.
No. Just take too long to repeat it again. What's the problem?
Nothing.
Nachamal?
You just switched around the names.
Nachamal, okay, fine.
Ruvain is the borrower. A Baka borrowed a car. The Baka borrowed a car to go on a date. He discovered there was no registration after the fact. Something happened while he was on a date. The tree fell on the car. And he wants to claim that it's a she'ela b'tois. Had he known there was no registration, he would never have taken this date taken the car on the date. Right, he couldn't do that because whatever he gets stopped on the way to the date or during the date, it would be horrific. So he wants a taina, it's a she'ela b'tois, and the mashal says, it's true there's no registration, but that's l'malav l'moyed. The exact same thing happened with or without registration. It's not like the police stopped you and took away the car because there was no registration. Had nothing to do with registration. A tree fell on the car, has nothing to do with registration.
I think the question is clear. Let's go to Rabbi Kahan, the answer, please.
Okay. So, actually, this was a true story and a similar story. So let's take it apart. First, let's understand, when a tree falls on a car while it's parked by a date, do you have the patur of Mesa Machmas Malacha? What is the Ilam Taina?
No, the boy's on a date. Mesa Machmas Malacha, yes or no?
So let's take it apart. If you learn like the Rosh, so the exact same thing could have happened in the person's driveway, in the Mashal's driveway, so therefore it's not related to the Malacha itself. So the B'chai Gavna, you would not have the P'tur. Sorry? Well, at home there's also trees. Where we live, there are trees. Maybe not in New York, but in Lakewood there are trees. Where we live, there
used to be trees.
So there are trees everywhere, and the trees could have fell on a parked car in Lakewood or whatever it was. So it could have happened elsewhere. Again, like the rush, it doesn't have to happen as frequently. As long as it's plausible, it could happen at home, so that it's not related to the malacha. So according to the Rosh, you do not have the p'tur. According to the Yad Ramah, it happened ala derech, and ala derech you do have the p'tur of Mesa Machmas Malacha. The question is, here, where the car was parked and was not being used at the time, do you still have the p'tur of the Yad Ramah of Mesa Machmas Malacha? It's not like the Anosim took it while he was traveling on the derech. It was already parked, It was parked there for 4 hours during the date, whatever it was, and something happened then. Is that also considered a patur leiter yad rama of Meisa Machmas Malacha? So there's a Chuvas Chesed Lavron, I believe it's Simon Chavav, Rav Akili, so he wants a taina, a similar story. He had it with a horse, not with a car, but a similar story. And he held that that's still considered pata, meis makmas dalak like the yad ramah, because it's still during the usage. I need the car to get to New York or wherever it was to get to that place, and it's parked by the place. I plan on returning with that car. So therefore, during that duration, even in the middle when it's not being used, you still have the ptur of meis makmas dalak. So that's one thing.
Doesn't have to be more alul. Even though the Yad Ramah has to be more alul on the way. Is it more alul that a tree should fall down on the way? The Beis Yosef, the Nesivos all say it has to be more alul.
We could done if it's more alul to fall there than at home in the driveway. Good, correct. Good. But I want to focus on something. I want to focus on what the Shaila was really talking about. The Shaila, and that is this a Shaila b'toyis or not? Is this considered Shaila b'toyis? There is a Marik. There are more paschals like that in Reish Tzadei Aleph. It's really based on the Gemara that if I borrow something and I discover that it's defective in any which way, so then I could tain it to she'ela b'toyis. I borrow a shor and I didn't realize it was a nachin. I could tain it to she'ela b'toyis and undo the she'ela l'mafreya, and if I don't have the chiyuvei she'ela. So here we discovered there was no registration, and let's all agree let's not argue on the mitzvahs that a car without registration should not be driven, and he wouldn't have risked driving such a car for a date. So then he could claim she'ela b'toyis. That's what the shaila is predicated on. What the chiddush here is that the mashal is taining, but who cares? What's defective about this didn't affect you at all. The fact that no registration didn't change your mashal. You came, you went on the date, you returned from the date, you got married to the girl, everything's fine. So what's the problem? The fact that it didn't have registration. That's the shaila. Is that also a mekach toyis when the mum doesn't play itself out to cause any problem for the buyer, for the borrower? Is that also a mekach tois, a sheila b'tois, or not? So, this type of a sheila, the Chelkas Yoyev in Even Ezer Siman Lamed Daled, he argues that b'chahai gavna that's not considered a mekach tois. And Memele he takes on other achronim. Let's say there's a Machin Ephraim. If you became a shomer on money and you found out that some of the money was counterfeit, you could make a retroactively bittul on the whole shmira because you would never have accepted shmira on some counterfeit money. But the Chelkas Yoyev says that if it turns out that the defect didn't bother you in any which way, then it's not a mekach tois, it's not a she'ila b'tois. As I named the Chelkas Yoyev, he brings a raya from a Gemara. I don't want to go into it. The raya, like the Rishonim, it's not such a raya, but that's the Chelkas Yoyev's shita, that this is not a mekach tois. However, Lani's daiti, there's a mafusha Gemara in Becharis otherwise. The Gemara in Becharis, in Mishnah, Gemara in Becharis Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, the Gemara says if I buy meat and I had no use for it, so what I did is I gave it to my dog, or I sold it off to a guy, and then later I discovered it was a treifa, it was treifa meat. The Mishnah says it's still a mekach tois. Now the problem is, the fact that it was treif didn't bother me ki huzeh. I didn't eat it, my dog ate it. He doesn't care if it's kosher or treif. The guy ate it. He doesn't care if it's kosher or treif. I sold it to the guy for the same value. I got my money's worth. It didn't bother me ki huzeh, and yet it's mafusha Mishnah Gemara that it's a mekach tois. L'chari has to be the same because the lumdis of mekach tois is the same. See, this is shaila not so limited to shaila. It's a lumdis of mekach tois. I'll tell you a Maisa Shahaya many years ago, probably around 25 years ago. I had this shaila. I'll tell you what this case was then. The case was somebody purchased a medicine. His child has upper respiratory infection. It's a fancy word for a cold. And he bought this medicine. And he was going to see if the Rebbeinu will be kind for his child and make his child get better, heal his child without using the medicine. And sure enough, the child got better, didn't need the medicine. He didn't have to subject his child to medicine, so he poured the medicine down the sink. He can't even give it back to the pharmacy. It's not negay. Now let's take it back. And as he's pouring down the sink, he saw that the medicine was not mixed properly, spoiled, whatever. It looked off. It was white and pink. It was all mixed up. So it was something defective. Now the question was, can he go back to the pharmacy and tie the mecca toys on this medicine if it didn't make a difference? Child got better. He wasn't using the medicine anyway. He poured it down the sink. Is it a mecca toys or not? Basically, this is the same shaila as the Chelkas Yoiv. I sent the shaila to Rab David Feinstein Zatzal. I wrote him the shaila, and he responded. I don't know if he does it. I once went to Rab David Feinstein and he asked him to give me shemesh. I'm an Easider. I asked him to give me shemesh, if I can send him letters. So he brings me into his office and he shows me a pile of pie. He says, this is what happens when someone sends me letters. Just stands here. I know, he didn't, that's what he said. But kids, of this one he answered. He answered me this letter and he said, yes, it's still a Mekach toys. Because the Maysa, it was a defective product. So, seemingly he also didn't go like the Chelkas Yoiv. I found later on an Ulam HaMishpat, the end of Simin Reish Lamed Daled, who seemingly does the same thing. He brings the raya from Bechoros Lamed Zayin that it's still going to be a Mekach toys, even if it didn't translate to any problem to the buyer. So in which case, back to our Shaila, for the date, it would be a She'ela B'toys, he would not be a Shayel, and therefore he'd be Pater on 90.
Can I object? Most of you last night at 9:30 went to bed. I had a job, I had to give a shir. In my shir, I had a question. Shoyel shaloi midas, loyd Rabbi Yehuda that says shoyel shaloi midas she'ela havi, v'loy gazlan havi. How in the world do you become a shoyel? There was no Kinyan, Shaila. So how could you be Chayiv Boinson? The Ritva holds that Shoyel Shlemi Das Loy Demand the Oma Shoyel Avi, he becomes a Shoyel. So he's not a Gazlan, Rabbi Khan. He's a Shoyel. But he's no other tzad here. So how do you become a Chayiv Boinson? Zogt Reb Nochem, Zogt Raboch Beh, that Kol HaNor Shaloi, even without you having the schusim of Kol HaNor Shaloi, makes you into a shoyl and Yechai Bointzen. If that's true, I want to know in a Makach Tois, a Sheila B'Tos, but you used it. You still Chai Bointzen. Loi Gora, from every Sheila Shaloi Midas Loi Rabbi Yehuda, that you were not coined it was bottled, there's no she'ela here, but if you use it, and calls man, it's called anor shelo, you are chayav bointzen. Maybe here you also chayav bointzen.
Okay.
I would differentiate this because over there, the shoyl wanted that item, so therefore he could be a shoyl shaloi midas. That's a shoyl because it's called anor shaloi. Here, I'm afraid the shoyl never wanted this item.
True. Okay. I agree to that chilik, but I don't think it's a machalik. And the reason is because has nothing to do with what he wants. Calls man that it is kol anosh, which means he is using it. He has no rights to use it. The Torah puts on him automatically, puts it into his rishus, and all the ointim happen to him. I know, I thought about this. I would think that it should be the same.
You know, if I could. If I can just add two other points, just first.
What's that? One at a time.
Shaila B'Torah is. Okay. We'll talk later. Go ahead.
Okay, just two horrors on the actual case. First of all, as far as the raya, perhaps there's makom to be machalik, that when a person buys something and there's a mum or there's a mekach tois, so there the svara is if I bought kosher meat and I was given treifa meat, that's literally shnei minim, and the kinyan was a tois. Whether or not I realized it at the time, whether or not it's relevant later on, at the time the kinyan never happened. When we're dealing with borrowing a car, the car worked. There was no inherent defect. The concern is that had I known that there is a risk that if I get stopped by the police, the car may be impounded, I would have never done it. That already is in the sugya of umdana l'chayra. When we're dealing with umdanas, there's a lot more flexibility. And in umdana, we do find there are cases where we say, had I known this, I would have done it, I wouldn't have done it. And there's a greater argument to say, if it wasn't relevant at the end of the day, we can't use umda to be mavatal it, and therefore perhaps there's malkin to be mechalek between the two cases. On a practical point, and this Rav Kahan mentioned clearly that the question was predicated on a certain hanacha. I think that practical hanacha is probably debatable. When a car doesn't have registration, does that mean it's a toyus and a person would not? If a person needed a car to go out on a date, would he rather go spend $100 to rent a car as opposed to a car without registration that if he gets stopped?
Probably, but he would just borrow a different car.
What?
He'll borrow a different car.
Right, but when we're going to be mavatal a she'ela or a kinyan, it has to be clear that a person, this is something which a typical person will consider a defect. We're talking about a bacher.
Okay, Rabbi Sai. So we have, I guess it's a two-part question because it's two questions with Negeya to Baal Avimai. First part, a shul hired someone to build a sukkah. The Gabbai helped out by holding some of the boards. While they were working, the builder did not properly secure the boards. The builder is the person they hired to build the sukkah. The Gabbai, I'm going to do this slowly and twice, so we get it straight the first time. The Gabbai is the helper. He's obviously an employee, paid or not, of the shul. While they were working, the Kablan did not do his job properly, and the boards fell and broke. Is there a din, is there a tour here of Ba'olav Imai? Question number one. Question number two, not related to the sukkah, but also related to Ba'olav Imai. Bacham borrowed a leased car from a Rebbe during Bein Asdarim. I'll repeat it again when the Diana finished fighting about the first one, and wrapped it around the telephone pole. Is there a din? What's the Bachar liability?
Leave it separate.
Let's just separate.
Do it separately. Okay. All right. Rabbi.
Okay, so the shaila was a person, a shul needed to put up a sukkah. They hired an employee, a guy, to put up the
question. You don't have to repeat it again. Just go straight to
put up the sukkah. The Gabbai wanted things to move along. It was a little late. He helped bring up the boards. He helped hold the boards a little bit. He helped out a little. And then, at some point, a part of the sukkah that was not held by the Gabbai and was freestanding collapsed and a sukkah board broke. And the question was whether the Uman was responsible. So, the first thing is, the Gemara says Shulchan Aruch Simon Vav, a Uman has halacha v'shoy mesocha. Shoy mesocha him. That means when you hire somebody to take care, to fix something of yours, he becomes a shoy mesocha on the item. And his schar is that he's able to earn money by the fact that this item is in his possession. So therefore, he's considered a shoy mesocha. Now, the Sma holds that if you do this bebeis balabayis, that means if you come to fix something in the bias of the one who you're fixing it, that means if he comes to my house, a repairman to fix my stove, the Sma holds you don't become a shomer, because the bailam are there to be shomer. The shach disagrees with him. In this case, it was outdoors, it was under his protection of the thing. I believe that everyone would agree that the Uman became a Shoy Mesocha. So we're assuming that the Uman is a Shoy Mesocha. Now the question is, like Rabbi Gadisman said, do we have Baal of Imoy? Reason being, the Gabbai helped bring up the boards, he helped set up the boards, and therefore the question is, is he Ba'al Avimoy? So, Ba'al Avimoy is important, that it has to happen at the point when the Shmirah started. So let's figure out when the Shmirah started. Let's assume that the Shmirah started at the time that the boards were already out of the building. Kozman in the shul, maybe they didn't start. Let's assume they started outside the building. As soon as he brought them outside of the building, at that point, if the Gabbai was in the middle of helping him put up the sukkah or working with him, then potentially we can have a question of Ba'al Avimoy. The question is, who's the Gabbai? He's Ba'alav. So let's take this apart. The first thing is, this sukkah belongs to who? Belongs to the shul. The Gabbai is maybe a member of the shul, but he's probably 1/100th of the shul. He's not the whole shul. So maximum, l'choire, if we're going to have the Gabbai Ba'al Avimoy, it'll go into the suffix of the Gemara. The Gemara says that shutfim that have an item and they marshal it or they're to somebody, and one of the shutfim are Ba'al Avimoy. So the halacha is like this: l'chol hayoyse, in both stadim of the suffix, only his portion would have the din of Ba'al Avimoy. The other people's portion would not have had Ba'al Avimoy because they were an Imoy. So the Gemara's shaila is whether his portion 1/100th would the Ummah be potter because he was Ba'al Avimoy. So it's a suffix in the Gemara, and it's a suffix in the Gemara if you have the ptur of Ba'al Avimoy. So maybe on this 1/100th you have Ba'al Avimoy. There's the other tzad is that you chayiv completely. Now here happens to be that the Ummah, the Gabbai is a muhzik on the money because he didn't pay the Ummah yet for his work. So he'll tell the Ummah, Rabbi'id, I hold like the suffix in the Shaila, that the halacha is that you don't have the ptur of Ba'al Avimoy because you need to have the whole entire mashal. You have to have everybody, and you didn't, and therefore you would not have the ptur of Ba'al Avimoy. But even if you wouldn't have this, not if you wouldn't. So now comes, I said to the person, it was a Maysa Shahoya, a real story. I paskin that the person is chayiv. I got back from the Roth that there's another dayan who says, no, it's Ba'al Avimoy. I didn't hear what he has to say, but he basically he was telling me that the Gabbai works on behalf of the whole shul. And since he works on behalf of the whole shul, it sounds to me like he's trying to say he's like a shliach of the entire shul. And since he's a shliach of the entire shul, and he's working on behalf of the shul, because he's the Gabbai of the shul, so he was Ba'al Avimoy on behalf of the whole shul, because of a suffix in the Gemara. The Gemara brings a machloikis. If I send a shliach to work for somebody else, whether that's considered Ba'al Avimoy, do you say shlucha shalom kemoisai and he is considered Ba'al Avimoy or not? And the Machab and the Ramah have a machloikis about this. So you could be say kimli like the Ramah, and you could say shlucha is considered Ba'al Avimoy and Memel is Ba'al Avimoy. Again, you could also say kimli the other way, because if I'm holding on to the money, I could say that a shliach is not considered Ba'al Avimoy. But more than that, I don't believe that this Gabbai is a shliach of the shul to be Ba'al Avimoy. The poshet pshat in a shliach is that the bailim, and that's at least Tosfos Shita by an Eved, is that the bailim need to be meshubed to do this work, and they sent the shliach on their behalf to do the work. But in this case, since the shul had no obligation to help this people at all, they had no obligation to help the guy who's building the sukkah, therefore he cannot be a shliach on their behalf to be Ba'al Avimoy. More than that, he can't decide on his own to hire the person, be meshabed the shul, and then also do the shlichus on behalf of the shul, and therefore I didn't believe that he should be a shlich. More than that, one more thing. I believe that the reason he helped the guy was l'toivas the shul. Meaning, He helped the shul. He wanted the sukkah to be built quicker. He wasn't here to help the uman. He was doing it for the shul's benefit, to do it quicker. That may be not Baal of Imoy, like the Gemara says that if a guy goes out and he checks the behemoth to make sure that he's loading the packages to help load the chamor, and his interest is to protect his chamor, then he's not considered Baal of Imoy. If you're here not to protect the uman or to help the uman, you're here to help yourself because your pashut wanted to go quicker, it's possible that that's not considered Baal of Imoy.
Just to be moisif, depending on this halacha would apply when you're hiring the employee, the builder, and you're paying him a flat fee to put up the sukkah. On the other hand, if he is a poil, if he's getting paid by the hour, then already there are some shittas that hold that he would not have a din of a shomer sachar. And especially over here, you don't have tafis ha'igrei. There's normally a second cheshbon that you're shomer sachar because you're holding on to the item that you're working on in order as collateral to get paid. When you're building a sukkah, you clearly are not tafis ha'igrei. You're building it on the other person's property, and therefore you will not have that svar either. And another reason why you may not be a shomer sachar, depending on the situation. One last ha'ara, which is perhaps a machlokes, and that is
Probably a pshia, and you have daughters for it.
One last svar is that when we're dealing with kimlis, which is an entire complex sugya, when the issue at hand is a schiras poilim, which is subject to baltalin, tiny kimli is not so pashut.
Okay, you have a kudza, I guess. Yeah. Okay.
Just want to be nice of one more Nakuda, quick,
Not Kimli.
is that the
It's not Tvisa.
assumption here was that a gabbai is a shutuf in the shul's sukkah. I know that a lot of gabayim think that they own the shul, but I would venture to say that the shuls are not private. The shuls accept public funds, and the Gemara is not for the Choshen Mishra, it's really in the Megillah.
That's a big question.
Right, when you're accepting public funds, and it's out of the funds coming from other areas, which virtually all shuls today are, so then it doesn't belong, it's not considered shutfis, it belongs to Klal, so it belongs to a tzibra at large, in which case, I don't know if it's B'chalal Negeh, this whole shutfis, I don't know B'chal Negeh, the whole Balavimai. All right.
Okay, Rabbi Sai, the next question is the question about the Bacham. Repeat it again, and we're not going to repeat it again, the question, Rabbi Marburger. Bacham borrowed a leased car from Rebbe during Beinas Durham. Oh, by the way, the Iyunim is a bissel verschlafen here, the Heint. Last year, the attacks on the Iyunim were sharper, so everybody wake up. They're prepared for anything.
Regatasman, that's called Nakama.
Bacham borrowed a leased car from Rebbe during Beinas Durham and wrapped it around the telephone pole. What is the Bacher's liability?
Okay, this question has a number of components. Let's deal with it just piece by piece. The most obvious point over here is that the Bacher borrowed the car from the Rebbe, and therefore, although the Bacher is a shayel, arguably this is Baal of Imai. The Rebbe is teaching the Talmud, and therefore the Bacher Choyra can say that he's pater. Now this brings us back to the Gemara Shaila of when a Rebbe and Talmud are learning together, who's working for who? The Gemara differentiates who gets to choose the Masechta. Well, in yeshivas today, I guess officially the yeshivas get to choose the Masechta. In practice, I think it's a little bit more complicated. I think it's they perhaps the Bachram have a vote, but at least Kipshuta, where the Rebbe, if you will, the Anhola picks the Masechta, l'chayra the Talmidim are working for the Rebbe, and therefore you would not have Baal of Imai. However, the Nesiva says this is all true when everyone's a volunteer. A Rebbe and Talmud are sitting together, they're learning. On the other hand, if the Rebbe is being paid to teach, then already we don't have a question. It's clear who's working for who. And to the extent this Rebbe is getting paid, and hopefully Yeshiva is actually paying him, then the Baal of Imai would certainly be that way. And l'chayr, the Bacher would be able to tie in a Baal of Imai and be pater from She'ela. Wait. Now, if you listen carefully, you have to be medayek Rabbi Gadasman's words very carefully. The question was posed, this happened ben Astarim. So is there a Shelo B'Bailim ben Astarim? So this goes to the point that Rav Kahan mentioned earlier, that when someone's actually doing work, it's clearly Shelo B'Bailim. When he is meshubed to you to do work, then even if he's physically not working at this moment, it would still be Shelo B'Bailim. On the other hand, if he's not meshubed, he's off. He clocked in, he did his time, he can go home. On his own, because of his sense of responsibility, Ben Astar, maybe he will be involved, maybe he won't be involved. In that case, there would not be Bol of Imoy, because it's at a point that he's not meshubed. Perhaps that would mean that the halacha would depend on the type of yeshiva you send your son to. If the Rebbeim there are expected to be there 24/7 for the Bachrim, and that's part of the contract, if you will, that's the shibud, it's not voluntary, then there would be Bol of Imoy the entire day. If the yeshiva on its own is a little bit more laid back, and again, they clock in, you give your shir and leave, then whether or not this Rebbe typically spends more time or not would be irrelevant, and there would be no Bol of Imoy. No, wait. Now, very good. Who are they working for? Are they working for the Bach or for the parents? So this raises an interesting question. The parents are paying the tuition, that we all agree on. On the other hand, he's teaching or providing the service to the Talmud. So it's a good shaila, but I would think that just like a volunteer that helps someone is Bol of Imoy because he is helping that person. So if a third party is paying that volunteer, if you will, nevertheless, right now he's providing a service, he's helping this bacher, I would think that it would be Bol of Imoy during this period. Now, there's a basic problem with this whole analysis. If they borrowed the car and lightning struck, a tree fell on it, then we would have this discussion. What did they do here? They smashed the car into a telephone pole. Forget Shomrim. That's a mazik. There's no heter or ptur of mazik b'bailim. And therefore, assuming they were negligent, and they did something which a stranger would be responsible for causing the hezek, the conversation of Bol of Imoy is mostly irrelevant. Again, there is a mechudesh dekashita about with a wife that's mazik that implies in some cases mazik b'bailim is pater, perhaps it's shloi b'kavana. Driving 98 miles an hour on a street the wrong way probably doesn't qualify for this. But you have to be careful when you're applying the Patur Bailim. Are we coming to be Mechai because of Shmira, or perhaps is it Adam HaMazik, which would be responsible regardless?
A couple of details here, 1 second. Yeah, you finished?
Wait. What?
Yeah, are you finished your thought?
We're just starting.
No, just a question.
Okay, let me just...
the question.
Yeah. You don't. Pure Bailim is lightning strikes. Someone else... What? No. When you if you don't lock your door correctly, and something happens, you're not a mazik. Now again, you have the shear. There are cases good, but practically speaking, if I open the door of your house and someone comes in and steals, it's going to be very hard to be mechayiv me. I'll tell them a mazik. Oh, excellent.
I was going to ask that, yes.
Good.
So we will medaik here a leased car, ben Astarm. Every word is meduik here to the tachlis.
Yes.
So why the pshita mashal? Who asked the Rebbe to give a leased car to a bacher?
I would actually argue it's aveda midas.
Okay.
But
how old is the bacher? Would the rental car, would the leasing company necessarily agree with this? Do they have to agree to this?
Okay, so let's go into the fact that it's a leased car. Normally, you borrow something, you're a shoyl, you have your responsibilities to the owner. If the owner is working for you, it's a bol of imoy. In this case, the Rebbe did not own the car. It was owned by Toyota Finance. It was leased, and he allowed the bacher to use it. So that raises two major questions. Do I have to pay for the entire car when the mashil didn't own the entire car? He was just leasing. He just had the payrois for his 3-year lease, which was expiring in 2 months. So even if I'm a mazik, I was only mazik the mashil the 2 months of use that he still had left on the car. That's his claim. That's his loss. Now it's true the owner will have to go after it. The true nizik, if you will, is the owner of the car, which is a guy. And this raises all sorts of complications. Can you have bolo v'imoy if the mashal is not the one that had the guf of the car? But what it also raises a question, this is a mefurish halacha in Siman Ayin Beis, where someone had a mashkin from a guy, lent it to someone else who was mazik it. The problem there is the owner, who was a guy, went ahead and billed the middle person for much more than the value of the item. So in Shulchan Aruch over there, the halacha is that the shoyol, or the mazik, the last person, only pays for the actual hezek that he did. The fact that the middle person, the mashil, is now stuck paying the real owner, the guy, more, that's the mashil's problem. That's an alila, and you can't be mechayev the end user to pay for the alila for the fact that the owner is going to be mechayev the middle person more than he's really chayev al pidin. Now that being said, the Nesiva says that if the shoyol knew that it belonged to a guy, and he understood good and well, if there is an accident, the leasing company is going to charge top dollar and make the Rebbe pay more than the value of the actual damage, there he's mechayev midin arvus, and he would have to pay the full amount, which means if a bacher borrows it and damages it, he'll be responsible midin arvus for the entire hefsid. If an outsider goes and smashes into the car, the chiyuv is only for the actual loss and not for the added amount of the alila. Oh, insurance. The question is, what about the insurance? Or in this case, what about the damage waiver?
Let him get a fresh bottle.
So that raises a fascinating question. Every time you're mazik a car, and the insurance will pay for it, can you be mechayev the mazik to pay? And can the mazik say, "What do you want from me? I didn't damage you. The insurance is paying in full." Or perhaps the owner of the car can say, "You're a mazik. You just smashed my car. You have to pay." Now, the fact that every year I have a side deal with the insurance company, I pay a premium, in exchange they will indemnify me or they will cover my loss.
Premium going up.
That's probably a grumma. Yeah. That has nothing to do with you, and therefore I'll collect from the insurance, you're a mazik. So this is in Lumdus, this is a nice shaila, there are chuvas about it. Practically speaking, it's not so relevant, because the moment you file an insurance claim and get paid, you have to subrogate your rights and give the insurance company the rights of your claim, so you can collect the mazik and then sell that claim at the same time. In our situation by a lease, it will be very relevant. Because to the extent that you didn't destroy the Rebbe's car. So you're not paying for the car the only thing that you're doing is you're paying because of his loss, the fact that he will have to pay the guy. If he doesn't have a loss because of his damage waiver, so then he's not a mazik, and he's not a garmi, or the arvus, and therefore probably he would not have to pay if there is a damage waiver.
What if in such, I don't know if you want to go into insurance cases here, not dafki here, what if at the end of the day, the nizik ends up getting more money back, which often happens?
So I actually, many years ago, I lent my car to my brother who was going out, which apparently is a dangerous endeavor. And on the way back, the car got hit. The insurance paid. My brother claimed a yorid.
Explain that.
Mitin yorid. He said there was $1,000 of damage. You made $3,000 from the insurance company. You made this through my hard work.
So he wants the money.
I'm entitled to the money.
Elisha Bacher.
Next year we're having a yoga.
I think from between.
What's the other?
Okay, move on. Next.
Okay, so you know what?
Everyone's going to think we're not arguing about this balavima with the third party. So go.
Why is this not a shaila meismach except for the issue of a mazik? That he's a mazik, and that makes a difference. But aside from that, would not be a meismach.
Okay, that's assuming very charitably that the bacher was not pesheya. And it was an oinus. Meismas was in the context of an oinus. You know, oinus can't have Veder, Geneva, we can perhaps clear. If you wrapped it around a telephone bowl, my working assumption is there's some level of a pshia. I mean, I think the better question is perhaps he's putter because of kamei b'drama meaning.
There's the Chuvas Rav Moshe. Just one quickly, add 1 point. Just 1 point. Even the Rabbi Marburger is naming on for Pashas that his Bach was Pesheya, and for all practical purposes, I think I tend to agree with him. But there's a Chuvas Rav Moshe, and Rav Moshe names on. This is a typical Rav Moshe type of a svara. It's beautiful. He names on. I traces a makas that says such a svara. He names on that nobody in his right mind would put himself in a risk of life. No one would subject himself to such a risk. And therefore, Moshe writes in Shuvah that by its very nature, every car accident involves a level, a degree of sarkonis nefashis, and therefore he names on that every car accident cannot be a pshia, because nobody in his right mind, now Baruch might not have a right mind, but nobody in his right mind would do such a thing. So although you're naming on it's a pshia, Rav Moshe might name on otherwise. That's all.
Again. That's correct. Mm-hmm.
But even other mudlaidim is not mamish leilim, it's only Kain Aveda and not Kain Gneva. We pass can even the einus degree of Kain Gneva, we already pata. Okay, and then there's another point about the third party issue, which we keep on touching back to, like coming back to, like by Hatzalah. Here, it wasn't just an issue parent versus child, which itself is an issue, but it's also school versus child versus parent. Who's hiring the teacher? It's the school's hiring the teacher. The parent is not hiring the teacher. It's the Piskach names on in numerous places that there's no schiras poyalim relationship between parent and teacher and Rebbe. It's I am hiring, so to speak, the school, and it's not even hiring. He calls it I'm buying. I'm buying a package of education from the school, and the school delivers education. They hire rebbeim, teachers, and lunch, and recess, and gym, and whatever it is. And there's no skis pailim relationship achlal between parent and the rebbes. And then it goes back to our shaila. Here you have somebody who's meshubit to the school. The rebbe is meshubit to the school, not to the parent, but to service the parent or to service the child. Another question is, can you now extend the shiba to back to that student and create a balabimo like by Hatzalah and the like?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Just
from the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, you test that and you see over there in the story that the Talmud was able to walk away because they didn't want to learn the sefer that they were learning. So therefore, the Rebbe is learning. The Rebbe is being hired by the Talmud.
And practically today, if one Talmud goes on strike, the yeshiva is not going to change the curriculum.
I was once at a meeting with Reb Chaim Kreisberg and his whole kollel, and he told them that they have to learn the entire Masechta Shabbos, and they said that they're only going to learn the first parak and the parak Hazarek because they only want to learn the sugya. They don't want them to learn the Masechta. And he said, "It doesn't matter to me. I learned it already anyway. The whole thing. You can do whatever you want." And he was masking to them.
Okay.
It's a nice story. The relevance is not 100% clear, but
right.
It is a nice story.
One last I suffer by a Rebbe. We find in Schiras Poyalim that if a father tells a Rebbe, you're released, go home, they get into a fight, and he releases him. Nevertheless, if the child did not release the Rebbe, there was no kinyan, the halacha there is, we assume there's a direct shibud from the Rebbe to the Talmud, even though the Talmud again is not the one paying.
That's
so
vis-a-vis parent-child.
Oh,
here it's the school.
Okay, but so a kol panim we see by a Rebbe, even when a parent is the one paying, it's a shiba to the child, it's directly for him, and that's a greater reason why there should be ba'al of imoi to the child when you're dealing with a Rebbe. Okay, you can go on.
And he knows that he would borrow without insurance. Why is that not the same thing as Nasan and Liftor? I want you to go ahead and collect insurance. I don't want to pay for it.
So that was actually the third part of the question. We cut it out because it was just going to go too far into the weeds. And
you can answer it briefly.
The brief answer is that there may be some truth to that. And in some cases, the Bacher can say, I only took it to the Hachi. I had perhaps the most difficult or unfortunate din Torah I had. It was what I consider the largest din Torah I had. It was over $6,000. The reason why it was the largest is, and I've done cases of 60 million, but this $6,000 was for a bocher who his net worth at that point was about $450, and he lost this case. He just didn't know how he'd manage. And the case was he had rented, an ATV or something, and he had taken it, and the pictures were pretty incredible. Again, with all deference to the tshuva from the Igros Moshe that no one would willingly put their life in danger. Again, I'm not sure if that applies to all Bachrim. But ultimately, there was damage, it had to be paid for, and he argued, I would have never driven this had I known there was no insurance. The reality, there was insurance, but the insurance company took one look at what happened, and the pictures, and they said, we don't cover gross negligence. We cover liability, we cover accidents. They refused to cover it. And in that case, the Bacher was ultimately responsible for the damage that they caused.
Okay, one more car question, which is Meis Machs Mwacha. I'm going to say the question once, hopefully clearly, because we can't repeat the question 3 times. Ruvain borrowed a car from Shimon. Shimon's a mashal, Ruvain's a shayel. And while driving on the highway, someone else, a third party, we'll call him Levi. No, we'll call him Ivan. We'll see if it makes a difference. Sideswiped the car and sped off. Clear? Is Ruvain, the shayel, responsible, or is an accident of this type considered Mesa Machmas Malacha? Just to wake everybody up, there's a second part to this question. Assuming this car was a driverless car, would that change the halacha? A guy named Kahan, who is well-known expert in driverless cars.
All right. So we've heard already a number of times. We're going to go right quickly through this. But basically is, while you were driving the car, so then goes under the Yad Ramah while you were on the road, and an Einus happened, and Asim came, so then it should be a Patur of Mesa Machmas Malacha. Like the Rosh, we could debate if your car would be parked by your house. Could it also been sideswiped? Most likely. So then like the Rosh, this would not go under Mesa Machmas Malacha. The Nekude of the driverless car adds another dimension, and that is, remember Rabbi said we have a Shach's opinion in the Ramban. How he learns the Ramban, it has to be a Pshiyah Damashal. And he says that when the gun was taken away during the war, it's not the Mashal's problem, it's not the gun's problem, it's the soldier who was waging the war's problem, who messed up. It was the Shoyal's problem. So when you're driving the car, and in theory you could have avoided being sideswiped, or you could have tried at least, but the idea, it's not a Pshiyah Damashal, the car wasn't supposed to fend off that sideswiping, so like the Shach, in that case, it would also not be Mesa Machmas Malacha L'chari. It's not a Pshiyah Damashal. But if it's a driverless car, so you cannot blame the Shoyal, because the Shoyal's not driving the car. It's a driverless car. So if it's a driverless car, and this car cannot withstand going through a highway without getting into accidents, so then one could suggest, perhaps, that here the Shach would be made by a driverless car. The Shach would say that late his svara, that it is Pshiyah Damashal, and you would have the Ptur of Balavimai.
How was it supposed to avoid?
Just like every...
What did the marshal do wrong? He gave you a driverless car. I couldn't avoid it.
I thought this Tesla works and knows they have the beeps and they know when other cars are coming, and it should have moved over, and it didn't.
It's limited. It can only do that much.
So it means your car's not so good. Your car's not doing a good job.
No car is good. A car cannot do more than that.
Good. That's the other side.
Right, I mean, that's let me elaborate on that problem. He's saying that driverless cars are not mutter in most places.
Correct. That is the law. That is true.
Right. If you violate the law, you're zicher. If you violate the law, then you're.
But that doesn't. I know somebody who lives in Muncie. I'm not going to say to give too many details because you might figure out who it is. Lives in Muncie and works in Lakewood, and he drives such a driverless car every day from Muncie to Lakewood and back. And Baruch Hashem, he learns his Daf Yomi during that time. He has his Gemara on the wheel. Now the problem is that these cars have a sensor that you can't drive the car. The car doesn't go unless you hold on to the wheel. So you could buy very cheap in like some of these stores online for $20. They're grips. You put 2 grips onto the steering wheel. It goes onto as if it's your hand, and it just drives. And he was able to learn, and that's how he does his Daf Yomi every day. So you're right. By law, you have to hold on to the wheel. Yeah.
Okay. Just for the record, we don't advocate people drive like that.
Correct.
No, we'll see. But
that's why he only does Daf Yomi.
Rabbi Sai, another Shaila. I'm going to direct this to HaRav Roth. Okay, someone, 2 parts. One we discussed in advance, one I'm going to add. Someone borrowed a neighbor's sukkah panels. I direct all sukkah shilas to Rabbi Roth. Over Sukkot, there was a storm. This is the Chutz La'aretz part. There was a storm, and the sukkah collapsed and broke. Is the shayla responsible? Mesa Mas Malacha or not? A new question here in Eretz Yisrael. Someone in Roth borrowed a sukkah, and on Simchas Torah of Tafshin Pei Daled, unfortunately, Hamas terrorists, Yamach Shemam, came and destroyed the sukkah in an attack. Is the shayla responsible? We'll see.
Okay. So let's begin. The person borrowed someone else's sukkah panels to build a sukkah. So the first question is, when someone borrows a sukkah, whether he becomes a shoyal. The Ran, which was mentioned before, says that if someone borrows a sefer, one does not become a shoyal. Because since a sefer is made to learn, he's mekayem a mitzvah by lending him that sefer, and therefore he gets pruted the Rabbi Yosef. He's called the oisik b'mitzvah, potem and a mitzvah, and for that moment, or whatever moment it is, he becomes potter from giving an oni, and he saves a pruta, and therefore it's considered that he got paid for this. He's not kol hanor shaloi. He didn't get paid, but it's not kol hanor shaloi. And since it's not kol hanor shaloi, he's not a shoy mesocha. He's not a shoyel. He's a shoy mesocha. So, if the story that happened was a oinus, and according to the Ran, a oinus is potter, so in this case you may take the position that since a sukkah is borrowed to do a mitzvah, that's why people borrow sukkahs, therefore it's considered that he did a mitzvah by blending him this, by giving him this sukkah, and you may have the ptur of the Ran. Not everybody agrees with the Ran. There's those who don't agree with the Ran, they still say you're potter because mitzvahs lav lahem is nitnu. That means in order to become a shoyal, you have to get a benefit, and the benefit of being mekayem a mitzvah is not considered a benefit, and therefore mitzvahs lav lahem is nitnu, and you may be potter. What?
Speak up. Stand up so we can hear you better up here.
You want to say that the fourth wall is not part of the mitzvah?
Oh.
Most poskim say legabe hilchos sukkah that the fourth wall is considered part of the mitzvah and it becomes hooked to the mitzvah. So even if you don't eat it, at least there's no sukkah. But he right now borrowed it to do a mitzvah.
So
what difference does it make it's not called, so maybe la mitzvahs lav l'onis nitnu. There's two issues with this. If he's planning to take his wife inside to the sukkah, it may not be mitzvahs lav l'onis nitnu because she's not mechuyev. Maybe you say, "Ein mitzvah voice." What happens if he sits there? He's a chassidische yid and he sits there with the shlak, or he sits there in the rain when you're not mekayim maybe a mitzvah.
Without his wife.
Whether it's still considered mitzvahs lav l'onis nitnu. Another thing one can question is that the nesivas, the Machna Ephraim say that something that's oimid l'schirus, you don't say mitzvahs lav l'onis nitnu. And since people do rent sukkahs, and it's something that you could rent, and it would possibly be able to rent it, it may not have the hat of mitzvah lav l'onis nitnu. So you have possibly this round, and possibly you have this mitzvah lav l'onis nitnu. But assuming you are, if you haven't anois aguf, that was a good question as well. This is also a subject of a big machloikis. If like by hokir, by tefillah, is a big shmooze whether that itself takes away from mitzvahs lav l'onis nitnu or not. So you'll have that issue as well. Assuming he is a shoyl, now the question is he potter because of meisa machmas malacha? So again, according to the Yad Ramah, I think it's a dova pashut that you are potter. I think even according to the Rosh, it'd be potter. Again, it's impossible for a sukkah to blow away if it's not built. The only way for this sukkah to blow away is if it's built. So according to the Rosh and according to the Yad Ramah, this is meisa machmas malacha. According to the Ramban and the Rashba, one can question what happens if a sukkah by nature, since it's an arai, needs to be, it always has the risk of being blown down by a wind. So is that a pshia? Correct. But either way, it always runs a risk of being blown down. So it's not a pshia de mashal. The mashal didn't do anything wrong by giving you a sukkah, because that's what sukkahs mean. A sukkah by nature has this fault. So I would think that according to the Ramban, you do not have the p'tur of meisa machmas malacha.
I wrote storm. Does it make difference if it's ruch mitzvah or not?
No. Well, if it's a ruch mitzvah, then you didn't secure it enough.
Oh, so then
he's probably a pesheya and he doesn't have the p'tur of meisa machmas malacha. We're talking about someone who did secure it properly, and something that was a ruch she'ena mitzvah came and got rid of it. Going to the shterot question. What? Then how did the wind break it? Flew up because it was outdoors. He's probably a pesheya for leaving it there. Why did he leave it there? So Hurricane Sandy, I don't know about people like me, maybe potter, but everybody else would be chayiv. I don't have a smartphone, so I don't know what the weather is until I walk outside in the morning. But today, everybody has an update every 3 seconds. The people have stress already 4 weeks before that Hurricane Sandy is coming 4 weeks later. He mistama should know not to keep the panels outdoors. And it's not considered Ruach She'ena Mitzuya now. It's a Ruach Mitzuya.
Oh, very good.
Because you know it's coming. And therefore, you're not considered an oilus. You're considered a pesheya.
Okay, the second part of the shaila, Rabbi Say.
The second part of the shaila. So again, this Yid put up his sukkah in Shterot. It came, unfortunately, they came and they broke the sukkah boards. So again, if you hold that it wasn't a shoyl, he's a chapote. A oinus gomer, I don't think anyone can argue. You can't get a bigger oinus than that. If you don't say that borrowing with sukkah doesn't become a shoyl, he does become a shoyl. So again, if these mazikim walked around in the houses and they broke everything they saw, then you may not even have the Yad Ramah. Hagam, probably they broke something that was more shchir to be seen. It was built outside. their wrath, or if they shot missiles and it was more shchich to break something outdoors, so then you may have the Yad Ramah, because it was doing the malacha, it was more olul to get this nezek. But if, according to the Rosh, I think you would not have the P'tur Meis Malach. So the Yad Ramah, to have the Meis Malach, you would have to figure out if it was more shchich for this thing to get broken, but just the very fact that it was outdoors than indoors.
Okay, since HaRav Roth
I just want to
mentioned...
be massive
Yeah,
two
sorry.
things. One is that it touches on what we discussed before from the Chesed Avram. When the Hamas came, or even the other case, the storm came, he wasn't inside the sukkah. He wasn't using it at the time. He didn't need the sukkah at that moment. So then it goes into the Chesed Avram Shaila, do we still have a Tur Meis Malachus Malacha when the Malacha of the Shaila is not being done at that time?
The malacha is putting up a sukkah. That is the malacha. The malacha is not sitting in the sukkah. The malacha is having a sukkah built.
Fine. And the second Nakuda is about what someone already raised, which is, I believe, a very good point, is that regarding Simchas Torah, that was already after Sukkot. The Sukkot is no longer needed. He only needed
Shmini
for
Atzeres, but maybe for
Shmini
Chutz
Atzeres,
Laretz,
you can't take it down.
Yeah, okay.
Can't take it down.
You can't take it down.
Can't take it down. So it was part of the she'ela originally.
You can't take it down, but it's closer she'ela. So I don't plan on using Lamasa.
No.
If I go to my shver, to me bavaka, right, I want to give him, and on the way back, he already gave his opinion. There's no way for me to return it unless I bring it back. Still on the way back, it's kosher, and I'm no longer shoyel, I'm only shoyel masaka, because I'm no longer getting kol shaloi, especially with your Rav Bachman and Rav Nachum. I'm not getting the kol shaloi anymore. My no is finished. I have no idea about having a sukkah up on Simchas Torah. And Meir, it's true I cannot take it down, but I have no intention to further using it. My she'ela was over, that period is over, and therefore I'm now only a Shema Sachar, because since I had her not till now, that's like my payment for future. The Gemara says, so now I turn into a Shema Sachar. A Shema Sachar is part of anointing.
I do not agree. The reason is, I believe, number one, the person had a right to put something that was possible as chach, dalit tfachim of it, put it on top of the sukkah, and sit in there on Shmini Atzeres. And it would not have been called she'elos. He would have had a right to do it. Yana would have allowed it. Was nichlal in the giving him, and therefore, I still believe he had a right to use it. Secondly, if you cannot take it down, and it's muchrach to have it here because of the she'ela, that I believe again is the she'ela means you have to take it down and return it. If you don't take it down, Kozma, you don't take it down, you're still a shoyl because you were supposed to take it down. You can't tell the guy, here it is. You're supposed to take it down as part of your eschayvus into the mashal, and therefore I think he's still a shoyl.
But by the shveg, you also have to return it.
Who said you're talking about chayiv?
The Gemara. The Gemara says you're Shema Sachar on the way back.
No, because you can't use it.
Correct.
Here you could use it.
No, that was your first svara.
No, you could. You're allowed to use it.
Your second svara is that I can't take it down. That svara can't take it down. So what? I also have to
no,
return it.
but not taking it. You know, who said you have to return it?
You have to return. Shah has to return to the
No.
marshal. Yeah, if the Bardi
It's a machloikis return. No, Meir Rishon, you don't have to return it, and that has to do.
If you not al tchiv hashava, al push it. If I borrowed it, you have to bring it back.
Let's continue this offline.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to make peace here?
The case of the parked car is what the Chesed Avrams pointed out in his case, is it was in the window. I still need to use it. Let's say by the date. I still need the car to drive me home. I still want to be mishamish in the car. Right now, during the date, there's downtime, it's parked. So my she'ela is continuing. So my meila, I have a continued she'ela, and now his svart that his kiddush is still considered meisma kuzalacha even during my downtime. Here, the svara is arguably, the other dayan might disagree, but arguably is that my she'ela ended, my sukkah ended. I have no intention to use it further. And Mamela, Avad, if I can and intend to use it further, of course my she'ela didn't
I can think of a lot of variables here.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, move on. Okay, Rabbi Say, we have time for two quick answers to two more questions. So let's move on here. I'm going to skip ahead here a little bit. Kvei Iyunim. I'm going to pick one here. A bacher borrowed his friend's iPad, and then he lent him his smartphone. I'm bringing this up because Rabbi Roth mentioned that he doesn't have a smartphone and he doesn't even know whether it's going to rain tomorrow or anything like that. And the equipment ended up being confiscated by his Rebbe. Rabbi Weinberger confiscated the smartphone. Yeah, younger Rabbi Weinberger. Who is chayiv on such a din? It's the meches.
Okay, so there are a few points that have to be dealt with. On one hand, he is a shoyol. Shoyol is chayiv ba'insin. But what's unique about this case is that at the same time he lent the iPad, he borrowed a smartphone. This transaction is no longer with no cost. You're paying for the phone by giving an iPad. And therefore, in the very least, it knocks the person down from being a shoyol to a soicher, and therefore he would not be chayiv ba'insin. It would be a question of pshio or gneva v'aveda. Now the second point is, besides the fact that he's at most a soicher because he is not he's not using it for free, he's only getting it in exchange for being mashal his chayfetz, we also have a potential patur. What? It was. There was. Each one lent a foot.
Okay, repeat the question.
Okay. One bacher lent his friend. Yeah. A bacher lent a smartphone to a friend who lent him an iPad.
In return. It was a swap.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't take your pick your, so as far as because he is paying for it not with cash but by lending his own item, that is a schirus and you would be patur ba'insin. The second issue is that let's think about it. You're a shoyol, or to be more precise, you're a soicher on the phone. At the same time, the other fellow is a soicher on your gadget. So, according to many shitos, this would be bol levimai. At the moment they're borrowing the one item, their counterparty is working for them by watching their item. Now, this is a bit of a machlokes because a shoyol is different than other shoyim, but many shitas hold hashileni v'ashilcha is bol avimai, and even if it would be a pshia, you would be patur as well. Now, one last potential heter is the Gemara has a case of shol l'rva. If a person borrows an ox to do an avera with, the Gemara is unsure whether you have a din of a shoyol, and Halacha L'Maysa, because it's a suffix, you are not going to be chayiv. The Aruch HaShulchan says, because you're borrowing it for dvar avera, and that is not a normal she'ela, and therefore you don't become chayiv ba'insin. So if a bacher is borrowing an iPad or the iPhone, we can presume it is not for any holy purposes, and perhaps according to the Aruch HaShulchan, it's for dvar avera. It would be totally in this Gemara Shaila, and you'd be patur. Halacha L'Maysa, it's hard to be makel based on that, because the reason why Shol L'Rvo is patur is because it is not the derech she'ela. You borrow animals to work with, not to do isurim with. A smartphone and an iPad being borrowed from a bacher probably, unfortunately, is the derech she'ela, or the hishtamshus of the item to be done by Avera. And therefore he probably would be chayiv. One potential wild card, which I'm not going to weigh in on what halacha would be, is what's the halacha if you see someone using an item for an iser, and the only way to prevent him from doing that iser is to destroy the item. Can a person on his own lafrushim meisura go ahead and be mazik someone? Bezdin certainly would, but an individual yesh ladain. But if that's the case, and if having this gadget confiscated is stopping the owner from being over Yisurim, perhaps there's no makom to be chayiv.
Add on this?
Yes, I just want to add one nakuda. putting aside that last point that Rav Marburger mentioned, the shaila is a good shaila in theory, but in practice, I don't think the shaila is negea, because the Rebbe has no right to confiscate this iPad or this phone. And I'll explain why. And that is like this. There's a policy of a school, they have rules, and the school has to implement and enforce those rules, the taifas to talmidim. And if someone violates those rules and brings his iPad in, for sure, the Rebbe has every right to confiscate that iPad, for sure. But now that we know that the child, that means we went over time. Now that we know that the child does not own this iPad, he borrowed it from a friend, what right does the Rebbe have to confiscate this iPad? It doesn't belong to this child. The owner of the iPad didn't violate any rules. The owner of the iPad might not even...
Talmud?
No, Lav Dafki is even a Talmud
Let's
in
say
this
he was
school.
a Talmud.
If he's in a different school, even if he's in this school, I didn't tell you to bring it to yeshiva, so I didn't do anything wrong. You brought it to yeshiva, so then the Rebbe would not have a right to confiscate it, he would have to give it back. However, that last point that Marburger said is a good point, because there are a number of Achrayim who say this word, that you have a right to be boiche b'mi'utai. That means if somebody is doing something wrong, and you have to be mafresh and meisura, and the only way to do it, let's just say, is to beat him up. You could be makanoisai to mafresh, or you could take away his money, and that's easier, better for the person, better for the violator, his money is taken away. The poskim say that instead of hitting him, you should just take away his items. So a Rebbe, l'chayra, has that right to take away these items because he's trying to prevent the child from doing isurim, in which case he could take away the item even if it doesn't belong to him, because he has to take away from the owner as well. We can go into that, but let's say it didn't belong to the child, it belonged to a parent. Let's say he knows how to deal with it responsibly. We could talk about different scenarios, but the bottom line is, our school policy, the Rebbe can't take away the item if it doesn't belong to that Talmud.
Okay, everybody says the last question. I see Gaon Rabitzak is here.
Okay, just to clarify one point, the fact that the Rebbe may be acting shloikidin, but when confiscating it, just makes him into an anus instead of being din. It's still but the shoyl would still be responsible because it was nanas.
If the Rebbe doesn't give it back.
Okay, this was not my question. This question was submitted by one of the chashuv speakers from Chutz La'aretz, who was speaking at the Yarchikala. And here's the shaila. If one of the Rabbanim at the Yarchikala, Ramesha, you here? This is a question for you too. Somehow gets trapped here. Let's say, Rachmana litzlan, there's a missile attack and they close the airport. Let's say. And it becomes very expensive to evacuate, like happened after Simchas Torah. Tickets go up, you have to go to Dubai, v'chulu, v'chulu, v'chulu. Who is responsible? Is the Agudas Yisrael responsible? Are the individual Agudas Yisrael staff members responsible? Who has to pick up the extra cost for this l'chayra einus?
This is from the more interesting things to come into this shir. Is about Hilchos She'ela. The question is here that these speakers are being paid a fortune to speak here. If we're assuming that the speaker is not being paid, so it's a theoretical question. If a speaker is flown here on the cheshbon of the Agudas Yisrael, he's not being paid. He's just, they got him here. So if he was not paid and he's for free and he's working for them for free, the Ramon Simon Kufayavov Sif Mamches brings a machloikis rishonim. Some rishonim say you're a shoyl on the person because the person is working for free. So you just borrowed the person. And therefore, if Chaz v'sholem he's nitfas, Shaloi b'pshiyasa, he did nothing wrong. He was not nitfas while he was doing what you asked him to do. You're chayiv ba'intzen. And therefore, you need to be paid to him. That's one day in the Ramah. The other day in the Ramah says, you're potter. And the question is, what's the hezbollah in this machloikis? Why are you chayiv and why are you potter? And this brings us to ask many shaylas on this halacha, which probably since you're all here, you should have asked. Because really this is a chazorah on the whole 3-4 days that you were here. It would seem that all 3 peturim should be had by this shoyer. You borrowed a person. So the first thing is a person b'chlal she'ela. So we have a Gemara that says that a poil is considered like karkas because he's hukish lekarkoyes. So if you borrow a person, are you chayiv b'shmira? He's a person. And b'meila, he may be nismayit from the pasuk of shmira. Question number 1. Question number 2. It's ba'al of imoy. The mashal is working. The mashal is working for the shoyel b'shas when inherently, if you borrowed me to work for you, so I'm the thing that was borrowed, but I'm also working for you. So I should also have the p'tur of ba'al of imoy. And thirdly, if I'm in the middle of working for you, and while I'm working for you, I'm nitfas, I should have the p'tur of meisa machmas malacha. So if you can have a story that has all 3 p'turim of hilchas she'ela, it should be this one. And lo and behold, there's one day in Shulchan Aruch that says that you're chayiv. So you need to figure out why each one of these are not a p'tur. So if we take it apart, we'll try to do it fast so we can go through each one and see whether it applies. So the first one is, why are you not hukish lekarkoyes? So that's the Beis Meir's question. And the Nesiva says that you're a kablan. You weren't paid for by hour, you were paid to do a certain job. Since you were paid to do a certain job, so you're a kablan. And a kablan is not hukish lekarkoyes. Like you see in Hilchas Oino, that a kablan is not hukish lekarkoyes. Only an eved is hukish. An eved is a problem. Or a poil who's like an eved. But an Adam who's a kablan, he's considered a free man. Well, we can ask the good if I'm a free man. But if I'm a free man, then I'm not considered a hukish lekarkoyes. Now, there's a big machloikis if I have to do my job at a certain time, whether I'm a poil or a kablan. I'm assuming that they gave us perspectives. I have to speak between 4:30 and 6:30. They gave me a time when I have to work. Possibly
6:30, so find out.
I'm already overtime. But I have a certain time. It will maybe a machloikis achroinim whether I'm considered a poil or a kablan. If I'm considered a poil, then they may not be obligated because I just fell out of Dinei Shmira. Rabbi Kahan was poiding me. He said that maybe I need the Chiv Lotzeh de Shemayim from the Ivra Bina. So maybe they'll do the Chiv Lotzeh de Shemayim. Now, what about Imoy b'Malachtoi? He's working for him. So here comes complications. Some say that it's Exeris HaKosev. It needs to be that the Nishal and the Imoy b'Malachta have to be 2 different bodies. They can't be the same one. Since Baal of Imoy is Exeris HaKosev, it only applies when you're borrowing the item and I work for you. But if I'm the borrowed and I'm working for you, you can't have the p'tur of Baal of Imoy. The Nesivus makes technical cheshbonis why one happened before the other, which may or may not apply in every case. I don't want to get you to tumult. We'll skip it. And thirdly, why don't you have the p'tur of Meizam al-Balacha? So many Achronim say that this day must hold, must not hold like the Yad Ramah. He must hold that in order to have Baal of Imoy and to Meizam al-Balacha, it has to be Pshias HaMashal. There was no Pshias HaMashal over here. And therefore, if you're old, and that would explain the 2 days in Shulchan Aruch. And interesting, the Chassam Sofer tries to say that there's no machloikis. But it's interesting that the Ramban happens to be the day that's Mechayev. It's Shuvas HaRamban. We know that the Ramban holds Pshias HaMashal. So it would work that the Ramban holds your potter, the Ramban holds Chaim, And he also holds that you don't have the p'tur you don't hold of the Yad Ramah. That's what I have to say. Well, that's someone.
I'll just be moisif one concluding remark, and that is if you borrow a cow and it's stolen, and you have to pay money to be paid it, we understand it's stolen, this is how to get it back. The idea that when a person is captured, that's considered a hezek, and you have to be paid to him, is a chiddush. We see in the Ramah there are shittus that hold that being paid to someone from captivity is included in the obligations of a shoyel. On the other hand, we're in Eretz Yisrael, we're in Yerushalayim. It's where we all want to be. We have family, we have obligations, which unfortunately many of us have plans to leave in a few days. But I would question if a person's in a situation where he's in Yerushalayim longer, whether we can really be mechayev them with these halachas.
Very good point. I just want to add also one more point that you may be able to say, and this is again a chiddush, but I'm going to leave it with the oilam here. It's possible that you don't have the p'tur of Meisa Machmas Malacha when something is fixable without having to replace anything. That means we had the kavod the kushyaisa that Rabbi Weiss mentioned, where you have a beged that got a kesem of dam and it's mavu in the Gemara, you have to fix it, to wash it. And the question was, why don't you say Meisa Machmas Malacha? And it's possible that Meisa Machmas Malacha only says if something's broken and it's gone, so it could be Meisa Machmas Malacha. But all you have to do is just to wash it, and the shoyl could be obligated to return it. Could be they don't have the p'tur of Meisa Machmas Malacha. If all the guy is trapped and all you have to do is pay the p'tir, that may be like just washing him. And it may not be a p'tur of Meisa Machmas Malacha, and this would be a yishuv to the kasha of the Akronim, why you don't have Meisa Machmas Malacha. They don't say this. But this is a possible yishuv. The Rebbeinu Shem should help. He should be Mekayim soon. The mitzvah. He sent us a shlichus to this world, and he put us into Golus, and he should be Mekayim the mitzvah of being poidos, because ba'olav imoy, like we heard from the Chaim HaKadosh, he may have the p'tur, but we're not accepting that p'tur. He should be poidos b'korav b'mheirav yameinu. Amen.
Yeshakayach. Okay, everybody say first.